Hello, and welcome to The Season, the podcast from FYC It that goes behind the scenes of award season. I'm your host, Ryland Aldrich, creator of the FYC It app. This week, I'm thrilled to share my conversation with filmmaker Vanessa Hope. Vanessa and I had an interesting discussion of the intricacies of bootstrapping an awards campaign for her feature documentary, Invisible Nation. It's a really fascinating look at the creativity and challenges of building buzz for an indie project during a crowded awards season. Please stick around for that. But first, let's catch up on the latest awards news. The British Independent Film Awards kicked off with their craft category winners. Northern Irish comedy Kneecap stole the spotlight with 4 awards for casting, editing, music supervision, and original music. The Sundance Breakout leads this year's BIFA nominations with 14 nods overall, including Best Film. Other craft winners included Civil War for Best Effects and Love Lies Bleeding for Best Cinematography. The main BIFA ceremony takes place on December 8th. In festival news, the award-centric Palm Springs Film Festival has announced its lineup with Michael Gracey's Robbie Williams musical biopic Better Man as the opener. Impressively, the full festival program includes screenings of a whopping 35 entries for the Oscar International Feature Film Race. The festival kicks off January 2nd. Finally, in screenings news, it was a typically slow holiday week for auditions as studios unspooled the big Thanksgiving holiday programming they've spent the last month scheduling. Still, 44 new screenings were added to the calendar, with newcomer Wicked scheduling the most with 12. Screenings are being added to the FYC It app daily, so make sure to check for updates. If you're an awards voter and not yet using FYC It, head over to fycit.app to download the app for free and stay on top of all the latest events. Now let's get to my conversation with Vanessa Hope. Vanessa Hope is an award-winning filmmaker whose latest documentary, Invisible Nation, provides an unprecedented look at Taiwan's first female president, Tsai Ing-wen, and the island's fight for democracy amid mounting geopolitical tension. With a background in anthropology and East Asian studies, Vanessa brings a sharp academic lens to her storytelling. Alongside her husband, producer Ted Hope, she runs Double Hope Films, which focuses on independent fiction and documentary features. Now in the midst of a Grassroots Oscar campaign for Invisible Nation, a film she both directed and produced, Vanessa joins us to share what it's like to bootstrap an independent awards push. So Vanessa, how's your season?
Thank you so much for asking, Ryland. It's going really well. I feel excited and optimistic.
That's great. Let's start with the release process for the film. After 7 years shooting and editing the movie, you premiered at Woodstock in fall 2023. And you then went on to have a robust festival campaign, including Mill Valley, Hamptons. You won awards at Middleburg and Sun Valley. Was your festival strategy built around a typical sales and distribution model, or were you thinking about an awards campaign this early on?
We were thinking about how to come out and build word of mouth through a strong festival and awards play. But because of the sensitivity of the subject in the United States, it was harder for the big brand name festivals to take us on. And so Ted says we did a month of festivals, 5 festivals in the month of October. And then we were internationally premiered at IDFA, the International Documentary Festival of Amsterdam. And we also played CPH Docs, which is another big one in Europe. And we've been really well received all around the world. So we've taken it slowly. That was also Ted's idea and approach. Play for a year and continue that grassroots process, really, of building audience and word of mouth and campaigning.
You then went on to self-distribute the film, putting it in theaters early this year. At what point did you decide to self-distribute, and was an awards campaign part of that decision-making?
Yes and no. I have a team of passionate cinephiles, most especially Ted, who are slightly allergic to awards campaigns and don't necessarily think of them first, but think about audience and engagement and the conversation and the grassroots and showing that film, independently produced, underdog stories, low budget, can find and engage these audiences and be successful in movie theaters. So I think the big idea was movie theater plays, and continuing to play and see how much we can build and get invited to continue to play, which has worked.
So when you're building out this distribution plan, you're looking for the best ways to connect with audiences, as you say. But is there any thought to how to qualify for the Academy Awards and other awards at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. That was on our minds. And I am grateful that we did qualify because, as it turns out, there is momentum behind the film and really moving audience responses and people from the audience wanting to join our campaign and encouraging us and inspiring us to keep going and push to go all the way. So it happened organically, I would say. I honestly am shy about all of this stuff, including putting myself out there, but I enjoy learning and I've loved the process. And this is as important as making the movie in many ways. And to find that we are connecting with audiences, whether they are from Taiwan or from China or the US or any single country we've played in, that has been so rewarding. That is really the reward. And I think the idea of awards is simply that you increase audience. It allows the film to have more of a life, period. That's how you get it out there and keep it out there.
So at a certain point, you have to make a decision to launch a true Oscar campaign for Invisible Nation. When did that happen and what went into that decision-making process?
I think that the team members focused on impact and outreach and making sure the story of Taiwan in our film can be seen and heard and understood and make a difference. They really understood that once we qualified in the spring, we wanted to be submitting for awards. And then as we realized we were winning some awards that could help us continue to go further, we started the fundraising. Of course, we're constantly fundraising on this film, and that was definitely a big factor in the decision. And I would say once we actually hired our fantastic awards campaign publicist, Emily Liu Aldrich to some, and Felicia Wong, we knew we were really in it and going for it.
What are those first few conversations with your awards publicists like? Are you really laying out everything from the beginning, or is there more of a step-by-step approach?
They knew more about, for example, the different pay-to-play events or the different awards that are also paid submissions that we didn't know about. It was our composer, Weishan Xu, who's from Taiwan, who's convinced more awards will come and who was tracking the different awards to submit to that I was trying to do on my own. A heavy lift in terms of everything else on my plate. But Felicia and Emily bring decades of experience and knowledge and understanding of how to be strategic with a low budget and maximize the potential of any single event or email blast. And I guess Ted and I have a lot of friends in the film industry now, having been in it for some time. Ted especially. And so being able to call in favors and being able to think more globally has also been part of the strategy of late too. Just realizing like, wow, we seem to be reaching people who vote for these awards in the United States. And the film has had such an international impact and has an international focus. And we have a UK Parliament event coming up, which is really unique and meaningful and exciting. One of the most exciting things I'm really looking forward to, and how to bring awareness to the voting community about that this isn't just another film, but it actually is participating in these conversations at the government and diplomatic level.
So, of course, part of the campaigning process is having screenings for the film. At FYC, we see certain big movies getting hundreds of FYC screenings. With a smaller indie project, you can't do a full blitz of screenings. So what goes into decision-making on how you handle these kind of screenings and really maximizing your impact?
Yeah, you can't do a full blitz of screenings, and you can't pay for fancy hors d'oeuvres and alcohol necessarily. So you want to invite the friends that are happy with some water and maybe some popcorn, which is what they offer you at Soho House, which is actually pretty cushy and pretty better than like some of the venues we've been in. But a lot of it is, again, because thankfully, we've been working with these different services like Gather, who can do community screenings and work with universities and movie theaters, but think tanks or organizations. There's even a host a screening button on our website, and people are really using it and requesting these screenings. So we're open to all of the possibilities. And we've really, we just had a huge screening at UCLA in the James Bridges Theater, which is a legit theater. And they, by the way, are so professional with the podium and the introduction and the stage with the chairs and the Q&A. It was really extremely well done. And thankfully, because we actually had some bigwig filmmakers there like Paul Weitz and Nicole Holofcener and Nnamdi Asomugha. So we just do what we can. Like last night, I was at Columbia University, which was a tiny classroom and really bad projection, and nobody seemed to care. So I said, okay. And they brought Chinese food, so that was nice.
Let's talk a little bit about the press strategy for Invisible Nation. So typically an indie film has like a press cycle for festivals and another for release, with attention paid to how you might delay press from festivals for release. But you've got a whole nother cycle here with awards press. What's been your strategy for press across these different cycles?
Honestly, our strategy with press has been just to get some, because as Ted will be the first to say, it's shockingly hard to get press. And I think it does connect both to big events you might have, like a UK Parliament screening, but also distribution. So we are doing a special Gather TVOD 4-day event, December 6 to 10, in order for press, a new wave of awards cycle press, to hook to and say, our readership will be able to view the film in this window of time. And that seems to matter. But it is a film that it feels like it's had many cycles of life, because we began last fall, as you said, and then we got a great variety review. We got different reviews at different times, and really, again, meaningful ones for me, because there are some people who are writers who I really respect who have been able to see the film and write amazing reviews. And so actually being able to cross-pollinate, we have a movie that shouldn't just appeal to the film community, but also the community concerned about democracy or foreign policy or international relations or the survival of the country of Taiwan, all of those subjects. And so now we're also going for more political press, not exclusively film industry, but really it's just about how to galvanize all of it and show people it's worth watching and writing about.
So you're in New York right now. You've got a screening tonight. You're off to London and then Copenhagen next week, then back to LA for more events. I guess I want to ask, what's it feel like to be in the middle of all of this right now? Is it fun, hectic, just stressful?
All of the above. It is really fun. It is really hectic. It is stressful. I have ways of managing working 24/7. What's, I would think, surprising to people is how much work it actually is. I do enjoy it because I care so much about the film and I'm passionate about the subject, but it is pretty 24/7, and managing the different teams, whether in Copenhagen or London or the US, whether focused on film or politics, democracy, diplomacy, all of it is a constant 24/7 really kind of work, but it is fun. And what I love is seeing people and sharing the film and talking about it and finding what connection we're having in this moment in time. Like we hit the zeitgeist, like we hit, for a moment, we were hitting the idea of another. Basically, one journalist figured out, she said to me, this was Thomas Lafley in New York when I was here in October. She said, I noticed that you began your film in 2016 when the United States might have elected their first female president. And now,
oh no.
Yeah, but that was before November 5th when I saw her. So she was like, and now we might elect a first female president. And I was like, can you believe it? I've been so excited since July 21st. And now it's like, oh my God, deja vu. We're not electing our first female president here again. And so the conversation is evolving, but so in sync with the times. And I think that makes it really fun to work on and be involved with. And the team, like it's such a collective effort. The coordination is there and everyone is doing their part and making it work. So it's like making a movie, but it's making the movie come out in the world in a successful way.
So let's back up a little bit. You've had a fascinating career that spans foreign policy, academia, and filmmaking. What drew you to the world of filmmaking and how did that transition come about?
Well, that African gray parrot that you might be listening to in the background of this podcast, my mom's bird, because I'm in her apartment, she named after her father, who she loved very much, Walter Wanger, who was a film producer in Hollywood. He was actually president of the Academy during World War II. Wow. And German and Jewish. And my grandmother, Joan Bennett, was an actress and starred in many films, but most famously Fritz Lang film noir in the 40s. She and my grandfather had a company together. So however, they also had a certain made-for-Hollywood scandal in 1951 in a parking lot in Beverly Hills that you can listen to and hear all about on a podcast I co-wrote with old Hollywood expert Karina Longworth that is called Love is a Crime. So the interest has been there since I was little, and the love of movies has been there. But actually going into the business was a tricky proposition. I had to convince my mother that there are good people in this industry. And thankfully, Ted is one of them. So that helped when I met him in 2003. But the desire has always been there. And I think I really first or most strongly got into learning the Chinese language, living in China, living in Taiwan through movies. Movies helped.
Yeah, so you were living in Taiwan in the 90s during the first Democratic presidential election there. What was the moment you knew that you were going to be actually documenting Taiwan's journey as a film?
I was in Taipei studying Chinese that year, 95, 96, like you said. And the first semester exam, I guess I studied a lot for because the teachers came back to me and they're like, you just did better on this exam than anyone in the history of the school.
Wow.
And instead of being like, so gold star, they were like, we're worried about you. They were like, you need a life. We don't know what you're doing, but you need a life. And one of my teachers had just bought their first digital camera and they offered to allow me to borrow it. And I borrowed it and ran around filming during Lee Deng-hui's inauguration weekend. So the two loves finally came together then and there. And some of that footage is actually in our movie, Invisible Nation. Yeah.
Where along the way from that journey, from documenting with the digital camera in 95, 96 to actually starting the project of Invisible Nation, were there other documentary projects around Taiwan in particular that you explored?
Yes, actually. I honestly have been most fascinated because I lived in China first and fell in love with it and then went to Taiwan. And Taiwan is so different. And it's hard to fathom how Taiwan became a democracy when that subject is very relevant in China and always has been. It's not like there haven't been brilliant thinkers in China, brilliant pro-democracy activists in China, but why can't it happen there? Why did it happen in Taiwan? So I think those questions have been with me. And I did a first film feature length that was about the U.S.-China diplomatic relationship. And Taiwan was only a small part of it. So then I wanted to get a chance to hear Taiwan's story from the people of Taiwan and center it. But I had done a bunch of short films, and one of the shorts was simply about how did Taiwan become a democracy.
So gaining access to Tsai Ing-wen, Taiwan's first female president, that must have been no small feat. How did you secure such unprecedented access?
I still ask myself that, and I think a lot of it was luck and timing, and the fact that that first film tackled a subject that any president of Taiwan has to tackle, which is the national security, economic, and human rights implications of the U.S.-China diplomatic relationship, where Taiwan fits in there. And then I got a grant to begin the project to focus on women, peace, and security, which I think appealed to President Tsai. And then I basically wrote a proposal with a local Taiwanese producer, and she helped me deliver that to the president's office, as anyone wanting to write a proposal and submit to their office would do. We waited 6 months. That producer, Sylvia Fung, at that time was in their good graces, and I think that helped. We were told 6 months later, come to Taipei, maybe interview other people and see if you can get a first meeting with the president. And it did happen. President Tsai joined a meeting in the presidential office building with her team and my team. And we were waiting. She was the last to come in. She was the first to leave. We were all nervous, and she was standing by the door. And before she opened it, she turned back, nodded her head, and quickly closed it and left. And then her side erupted in excited applause. And then our side was like, what? Oh my God, really? It's happening? And then they were like, come back in 2 weeks. And I was like, what? And we did. And she started opening her schedule that May, and big things happened.
So you told Variety that you were concerned about people maybe viewing this as a campaign film or a propaganda piece. How did you balance your personal passion for Taiwan with the responsibility to present this sort of balanced narrative?
What really helped most, I think, was once we found an edit team in Taipei who are Taiwanese, and one of them is French, actually, but married to a Taiwanese woman. And they have a screening room. They have the local knowledge and experience living, growing up in Taiwan. And they could look at the film and say, this subject has this nuance, but it would be helpful if you would bring in the former opposition party president, Ma Ying-jeou. Can you get an interview with him? And so a lot of it was that balance, and the fact that because I'm not Taiwanese or Chinese, and I don't have relatives in either place, and I don't have baggage with the party history, I was learning the political party history while I was making the film. I had certain assumptions about, oh, well, if she's the first female president of a democratic progressive party, that might mean something. But otherwise, I spent the entire film learning, and sharing what I learned. And I think maybe that helped to keep it more balanced. But the community weighing in, great editors weighing in, all helped.
So tying this back into the awards campaign, do you see a difference in the messaging around the content of the film and how you message during the release, and then how you're positioning it specifically to awards voters? Or are those really one and the same?
They feel totally one and the same. I think we've continued refining our logline, but I think it's the same synopsis and logline. Essentially, it's just better worded, maybe. And yeah, I don't think we've changed our tune or the message behind the movie. And again, constantly buoyed by the responses from audiences and their emotional support and just their every screening support. I keep feeling taken aback by it. I didn't think I was making such an emotionally powerful film for people in making a documentary. I'm really thankful that it bridges divides, it doesn't divide people, and it's meaningful for people.
So what role do you think these kind of awards campaigns play in helping independent films like Invisible Nation find a broader audience? Are awards still one of the best ways to amplify the impact of a documentary?
Yes, I think absolutely. And apps like FYC It and the whole ecosystem around awards campaign season, because it's really elevating. There are no two ways about it. Whatever you think of whatever movie that gets Oscar nominated or wins, the Oscars are still the gold standard. And people around the world, I will never forget when I first met and started working with Wang Chuanan in Beijing, how much underground Chinese filmmakers love the Oscars and watch the Oscars. So the fact that we can even be in this conversation at all is a huge honor. Every single person on the team, whether in the US or in Taiwan, cares and finds it meaningful and exciting. And for a story where we've been given the opportunity and the privilege to have access to a president and a vice president now in B. Kim Shao and so many others who are so really, truly worthwhile, it feels like we're giving back to them, like we're doing a service, like we're contributing all that we possibly can and leaving nothing on the field. Is that the term? There's like a sports term that everyone was using in campaigning for Kamala Harris for president. Everyone's like, give it your all and leave nothing on the field, or don't regret that you didn't. What is the term?
Leave everything on the field.
Okay. Don't regret that you didn't leave everything on the field. Just give it your all, 110%. Don't regret that you wasted a second. Put it all I won't be making a sports documentary anytime. I have zero knowledge.
That's actually where I was going next. You spent 7+ years on this film, documenting an incredible story, and now you're on the campaign trail with the film. When all this dust settles, do you foresee returning to Taiwan? Do you have another film project in your sights or something else in the future?
So I have a couple things in mind. One possible project, again, with China and Taiwan and the US, that I would love to collaborate with a filmmaker friend named Leo Chang on. Leo's short Island in Between was Oscar nominated last year, which was a huge deal. He came out of left field with that short doc. They didn't submit to any of the awards things. And then suddenly he was off to the races and Oscar shortlisted and nominated. So Leo, I would love to work with. I, at some point, want to figure out how to develop the Love is a Crime podcast into a series. And I cannot talk to my mom about that because I would have a character based on her and she will forever tell me never to touch that story. And, I was curious about how a first female president of America might lead. And that was going to possibly be a next project, which now it won't. But maybe there is something to look at here.
So we end all of our interviews on the season with some lightning round questions, just some quick questions, quick answers. Are you down for that?
I can try.
All right. What is your favorite award show to attend?
Golden Globes. No, BAFTAs. I thought the BAFTAs theater was really great. They're all cool.
What is your favorite film festival to attend?
Ooh, Middleburg just jumped into my head because it's our new favorite. But I love Cannes.
Do you prefer Emmy season or Oscar season?
Oscar season.
We typically ask, what is your post-award season ritual? But since this is your first go at award season, do you have any thoughts on starting a ritual after this season?
Yes. Regular yoga routine plus massage.
What is your favorite past appetizer at a screening reception?
What? Rice balls? That is the risotto balls, maybe? I don't know if they're good. That's the weirdest answer.
Are you more likely to cry or swear during an acceptance speech?
Oh, cry, probably. Cry. I'm a crier.
At an award show, do you prefer theater or table seating?
Oh, depends on the theater. But I guess no. I don't have the experience of the table seating.
We'll stay away from the documentary categories, but what is one early award season prediction that you're willing to make?
Blitz and Conclave and Honora might win.
Wow. Great answer. Vanessa Hope, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in the middle of your crazy schedule. It's really been a pleasure talking to you. It's a fantastic movie. I highly recommend anyone checks it out. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryland. It was so much fun to be here, and I'm so excited to be on your app, FYC It.
Wonderful. We're back, and I'm here with our FYC It field agent, Tony Miros. As promised, Tony is phoning in from New York City. So, Tony, I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. How's award season in the Big Apple?
I did. I'm having a great time so far, but it is cold. It's been 30s. Today was the coldest so far. But it's been interesting because, I haven't really done the FYCs here in New York. So it's a little bit different than it is in LA, but it's been fun so far and I have a lot more to do. So I'm looking forward to it.
What'd you get up to?
Well, I got to go to the Directors Guild Theater on West 57th Street to see Dune Part 2, which I had seen when it first came out. But, in award season, I go to see the films several times because I forget. I just forget. I go, oh, yeah, I saw that. And then you forget. And so I went to go see it, especially go see the Directors Guild. And it was so interesting because it's kind of like the DGA main theater at Sunset Boulevard, but not quite as big. Like it's in between the little one and the big one. But they have a balcony. They have a balcony in the one here in New York. So it gives it a little bit of different of flavor, right? There's also, they have an upper and a lower lobby area that would be great for like a pre or post event reception. So it's a very interesting space, but it's so New York because they all came in, very nice. The people were very nice, but everybody's bundled up. Everybody's talking to themselves and they scurry to their own little parts of the theater. So I really didn't interact with anybody. But you know what's good about that theater is right next to the Russian tea room. So if you want to grab like some tea services, world famous there, or onion onion soup, or if it's really cold, you can also have some caviar tasting with some Russian vodka if you want to do that. But it was cool. And to see the film again now after a while, it reminded me how really good it is. I like the direction. It's gorgeous. It's epic. And so for this theater, it's perfect because it is the huge screen with a fabulous sound. So Dune 2 was perfect in that theater.
How full was the screening?
It wasn't full at all. It was, because again, this is one of those films that if you didn't see it the first time around, this was your time to see it. But as a re-watch, it was very interesting to see, and I had a good time, and I really enjoyed it, and I love the space. And I can't wait to go back because I'm going back next week for another event.
What else did you get up to?
So then I went over to 500 Park Avenue Screening Room, which is kind of reminded me of the London Hotel in West Hollywood because it's very elegant, it's intimate, it's upscale. So I went to go see Unstoppable, which I had not seen yet, which was very interesting for me. I really had no idea what I was walking into. You know this, Ryland. I go into movies, I don't even know what I'm watching. I don't even watch the previews because I'm like, I want to go in fresh. Okay, so I go to see Unstoppable. I kind of figure it's like a, underdog movie. Perfect. Absolutely. And it was great for the holidays. And J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, I was really surprised. Like I thought at first, this is a really small role for her, playing the mother of this guy who's a wrestler with one leg. Talk about like the ultimate challenge. You're a wrestler with one leg. Anyway, so then J-Lo's there and playing his mom. And I'm like, this is kind of small. But then I realized, you know what? Next year, she's going to be up for Kiss of the Spider Woman. So I think this is a good intro to her for the award season. I thought Unstoppable was really good. Have you seen it yet, Unstoppable?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, it came out Toronto in September, and then Amazon will be releasing on Prime Video in January.
So the Park Avenue Screening Room is the most booked FYC screening room in the world, I would assume. And in all four of the locales that FYC it covers, they've had 34 screenings booked there so far this year, which is way more than everything else. Do you get a sense of why that's the case? Is it just the perfect size for an FYC event, or it seems like it's relatively small?
It's 55 seats, so it's not small, but it's intimate enough so that, and not too crowded. And they do have this outside venue, which is like a nice reception area with a service bar and a small kitchen. So you could use it for greeting guests or whatever. But yeah, I can see how it would be popular. Number one, it's on 59th Street. So it's right in the middle of the city. It's 59th and Park. It's a really nice building. And it was really easy access right from the street. You go in through the front door. There's somebody greeting you, checking you in, and you go straight back into the screening room. And I'm not surprised. It's also, it's a nice neighborhood. You're going to go to a screening in the middle of the night. You want to go to Park Avenue. I have no problem with that. I love it.
Yeah. Good for having receptions and Q&As and things, or is it really more of just a place you go to see screenings?
No, I would, if you had one, it would have to be like a small film. It's like the London, seriously. Right. So it's small, but it's not tiny, but it's big enough so that you could have something, but not like a huge. Wicked would not play well
right.
at the Park Avenue screening room. That's just too small for Wicked. But it was, for what we saw, and I'm going to go next week. So I'm going to see how it is. Maybe about half of it was full for Unstoppable, which was interesting because these people didn't see it either. And everybody applauded at the end. So it was a little of Hollywood because, in Hollywood, we all applaud. Just to know, just because you never know who's sitting next to you, right?
That's great. All right. You mentioned you're heading back there next week. What else are you getting up to over the next week?
Yeah. So I'm going back to the DGA tonight to go see Clint Eastwood's latest film, Juror Number 2, which I, again, did not watch the preview. So I'm walking in blind. So we'll see what that's all about. And then I'm going to go see Emilia Perez at the Paris Theater across from the Plaza Hotel. Ooh, fancy schmancy. Can't wait. And that's followed by a Q&A with the director-writer. So looking forward to that. And then I'm going to also check out the Soho House in the Meatpacking District. There's a screening of Saturday Night. And the new thing that I didn't tell you about, Ryland, was I'm going to an HBO Max FYC event for The Great Lillian Hall at the Whitby Hotel on 57th Street with Jessica Lange and the director. And there's a reception. Yay! First New York reception. Very excited.
Wait, I remember you telling me about seeing Great Lillian Hall in LA a few weeks ago. So this is a repeat?
Yeah, well, this is the New York version. Let's see what it's like in New York. We'll compare the food from LA and New York. How about that?
And if they applaud for Jessica Lange when she heads to the bathroom.
You have a great memory. That's right. Let's see if they applaud if she goes to the bathroom.
Did you already see Emilia Perez too?
I have not seen Emilia Perez.
Okay. So that Jacques Audiard screening is going to have Julian Schnabel moderating the Q&A too. So that should be an interesting conversation.
I guess they really want people to go. But it's the Paris Theater, which is world famous. That's where they used to have all the international art films that came to New York, was at the Paris Theater. And it's right by the Plaza Hotel. So it should be lots of fun.
Great. Well, looking forward to hearing more about the differences between the FYC scene in New York as opposed to LA. Great work with that. Thank you so much to Tony Miros, our FYC field agent. We hope you're staying warm in New York City. And thank you, of course, to Vanessa Hope. I definitely recommend you check out her film, Invisible Nation. We'd love to hear what you think of the season. You can leave us a review on your podcast app or drop us a line at podcast@fycit.app. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us on social media at FYCIT app. You can also visit fycit.app to sign up for our newsletter, download the FYCIT app, and stay up to date on everything happening this award season. Thanks again for listening. Join us next week for another episode of The Season as we dive deeper into the stories behind the awards. Until then, remember, at FYCIT, award season starts here.